Hi everyone, good Wednesday morning and welcome to GoLocal Live. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining for this special edition here in downtown Providence as we welcome in West Virginian Democratic Gubernatorial candidate Stephen Smith. Stephen, thank you for coming into the studio.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your being here as you're on the tour of visiting West Virginians everywhere. So getting out around the country as you are embarking on a Democratic primary to unseat the current governor. So introduce yourself a little bit to folks here, tell them why you're running, and then we'll get into some questions.
Sure. I'm a West Virginia native. I was born in Charleston, West Virginia. My parents are the reason why I'm here. My dad helped start the Coalition for the Homeless and Public Defender Services. So that's how I learned that life was more than just being for yourself. And that's a value that runs deep in West Virginia. So it was an easy choice for my wife and I 7 years ago to move back home. And I've spent my career trying to get politicians to stop hurting people. So I ran a citizens organization that helped people start small businesses and after-school programs and pass pieces of state legislation. And what we found over and over again is that the people in neighborhoods and communities are 10 times smarter and more courageous and more compassionate than the lobbyists who run our government. And that's the central idea of our campaign is we need a government not of the good old boys, but of everybody else.
So let's talk a little bit about being up here, and as you mentioned, moving back to West Virginia, a little bit of anathema to what's taking place there. And as we see here in Rhode Island, your campaign has said, the number, I believe, 41 West Virginians leaving every day to pursue economic opportunity elsewhere. How much is that having an impact on the state?
Yeah, I mean, we have a serious population problem because we don't treat our people right. That when we aren't giving West Virginians, working West Virginians, a decent wage job, when we aren't giving them the roads and schools they deserve, people leave. The opportunity, though, and the same is true all across the country, is if we make our economy work for the people in our state and not for out-of-state landowners and big banks, then we can all have what we want. This is actually the wealthiest time in West Virginia history right now, and that means we can have the best roads and schools and wages we've ever had.
Now, West Virginia went Trump back in 2016. Let's talk a little bit, if you emerge from that primary, let's talk a little bit about that divide. How do you see that playing a factor in the race with it having been red again now almost 4 years ago?
Yeah, so West Virginia was Democratic for 82 years before 2014. And so the real fight in West Virginia isn't left versus right or red versus blue. It's the good old boys versus everybody else. And that is a fight we win because we have a governor who has literally used the office to enrich himself and his friends.
He's got quite the personal wealth now. Again, the current governor had been a Republican, switched to the Democratic Party, and then switched back to a Republican for Trump. How did that play with optics, and how has that been playing out in the state?
Yeah, I mean, and he's not the only one. The guy who's running against him was a Democrat his whole life, and then switched parties to run as a Republican because of a personal vendetta. You can't keep track of it. These people don't have R's or D's after their names. They have dollar signs, and that's what people are fed up with, and rightly so.
So the theme of your campaign, West Virginia Can't Wait. Can you explain that a little bit to us?
Yeah, so the opportunity that we have in the state is that the people of West Virginia have actually been governing ourselves for the last 30 or 40 years anyway, because we've had something akin to a failed state. And what we can't wait for is a government that recognizes that we're already solving our problems in our neighborhoods and communities, and the good old boys just have to get out of the way.
One of the main issues, one of the big issues facing West Virginia as it faces here in Rhode Island and around the country is the overdose opioid epidemic. Just saw numbers today, fentanyl deaths up in West Virginia up 122%. How is the state addressing this problem?
It isn't. It isn't from the top, it is from the bottom. The most innovative things are happening in church basements and local community organizations. And it hits, there is not a person in West Virginia who has not been affected personally. My wife and I are foster parents, that's our connection. The thing that is most galling about this is that we know what it would take to fix it. You get any group of 20 West Virginians in a room and they're like, we need to make it so that it takes minutes instead of months. to reach treatment. We need prevention in every grade, every school. We need mental health professionals in every single school so that school becomes a place of healing and so that we're not relying on our teachers to do every single thing in our economy. We know what it would take, and then we need to make sure that this is treated as the public health problem it is and not the criminal justice problem. And how do you pay for it? By making the people who profited off of our pain and continue to foot the bill. Everybody agrees that that's what needs to have happen, but we have a government that doesn't want to upset the status quo, and so people are dying every single day.
So in addition to keeping West Virginians in the state, addressing the opioid epidemic, what are the major issues facing West Virginia that are really at the core of your platform?
Yeah, every single issue comes back to this. We have a wealthy economy in West Virginia. West Virginia is not a poor place, but we send all of that wealth away. We send it to out-of-state landowners, monopolies, big banks, and the people of our state suffer. The people who work to make that wealth suffer. And the opportunity, again, is some state will be the first to choose local businesses and unions over Amazon and these out-of-state companies in a big way. And whichever state does, we hope it's us instead of y'all, whichever state makes that decision in a big way will attract all of the people in the country who want a small town life, who want to live in a place where you care as much about your neighbors as you do the car in your driveway.
So how do West Virginians and West Virginia politicians moving forward address the coal conundrum?
Yeah, so the coal issue is not pro-coal, anti-coal. That's how the national politics want to fight that fight, is pro-coal, anti-coal. We in West Virginia know that the fight has always been coal miner versus coal company. And we are the campaign that is unapologetically on the side of coal miners every time. And the thing that the whole country has to learn from coal miners is that our coal miners took the worst job on the planet and made it a decent living, turned it into a middle-class job. And that's what we have to do as a country in every single industry. And until we do that, we need to rely on coal miners and unions to make it so that we can have an economy where no matter what you do for a living, you deserve to live with dignity.
And is there a future for coal? One of the things that we've been reporting up here recently, union battle with Stop and Shop Supermarket, and we reported on the robotics and AI technology and a number of industries, both from retail to even banking. Are those coal jobs going to be there moving forward?
Of course not in the same way, right? So coal miners know better than anyone that the coal jobs have steadily decreased, largely through automation over the last few generations. But the problem is not how do we find the next big industry to come in and replace that. It's how do we make every single job a job where you can have a middle-class living and that you get to live with dignity because you're a working person who pays your taxes, regardless of what you do for a living.
Well, anything else you'd like to share with Rhode Islanders viewers while we have you here in studio again on the tour of West Virginians everywhere, going around the Northeast before going back down and looking at that primary in May? Anything else you want to share with viewers?
The only way any of us are going to get the government we want is if we take it. So if you've ever thought about running for office, do it now and give us a call. We don't care where you are, we'll help, because the thing we need is people all across the country saying, this government is ours. It's not our job to get politicians to listen to us. It's our job, all of our job, to replace them with us.
Well, Stephen Smith, Democratic gubernatorial candidate for West Virginia, I appreciate your taking the time to come into the studio and share your story with Rhode Islanders here. We'll be back this afternoon for more Go Local Live, so have a great day in the meantime, and we'll see you this afternoon. I'm Go Local News Editor Kate Nagel.